Hello everyone, intuitive and astrologer Lisa Salvatore here. I just wanted to put together this quick video for you to show you how we all have every zodiac sign or every star sign present in our birth chart, even if we do not have any planets there. This is a question that I receive all of the time. It's a comment that I see quite often here on YouTube or in forums in general, where people say, but I don't have Scorpio at all, or I don't have Aries. But we all have every one of the 12 signs of the zodiac in our birth chart somewhere, even if we do not have any planets there. So in this quick video, I'm going to show you a natural birth chart without any planets in it. I'm also going to show you fictitious birth chart that does have planets in it to explain this a little bit differently, a little bit more deeply, so you can understand the basic mechanics of the birth chart. If you know all of this already, then you obviously don't need to watch this video. Also know that I have a 3-part tutorial. That is a paid download, but that is much more in-depth. It's longer. It goes into a lot of different ways to cast your birth chart. It's how to track transits, new moons, full moons, and such in your birth chart. In that video, I also go through the archetypes of each zodiac sign, each of the 12 zodiac signs, each of the 10 planets, and how these energies interact with each other. So we go a little bit more deeply in that 3-part tutorial. I will link that below if anyone is interested in that. Otherwise, just enjoy this, and I hope that this explains or answers some questions. First things first, if you are new to my channel, welcome. It's lovely to have you here. And to all of my existing subscribers, it's always lovely to have you here. Welcome back. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the bell notification so that you are notified every time I upload a new video. All of my links are below in the description box. The links to my website, the links to schedule a session, to my courses and products, everything, all of my social media, everything will be linked below in the description box. Please note that I practice mainly Western astrology using the tropical zodiac, but regardless, Aries is always the first sign of the zodiac. Pisces is always the 12th and final sign of the wheel. Please note that you can pull up your birth chart as well right on my website, lisasalvatore.com. Right on the homepage, just click Free Astrology Chart. Let's get right into it. So here we have a birth chart, and don't worry if this looks like hieroglyphics. Regardless of where you are in the world, the ascendant is always the starting point right here, the AC or ASC, it's listed as sometimes. That's the ascendant, aka the rising sign. Now this is just a natural birth chart with Aries being in the first house because Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. So therefore in a natural birth chart, Aries will be the first house. And then we see here Taurus is the second house, Gemini is the third house, Cancer is the fourth house, Leo is the fifth, Virgo is the sixth, Libra is the seventh, Scorpio is the eighth, Sagittarius is the ninth, the 10th is Capricorn, Aquarius is the 11th, and Pisces is the 12th. And then we have the angles of the chart, or the backbones of the chart, or of the person, as I always like to say. The ascendant, which is the starting point. So this is the ascendant, or aka the rising sign. It's the beginning of the first house. The ascendant is always the zodiac sign that was rising on the eastern horizon at the exact moment of your birth time, or the exact moment that you took your first breath as recorded. This is a very significant part of the birth chart and a very sensitive angle. Then we shoot across the chart and we see the opposite to the ascendant, which is the descendant, or the DC. This is the cusp of the 7th house. The descendant is directly opposite the ascendant. It's on the western horizon. And this is the sign that was setting on the western horizon at the time of the person's birth. The descendant acts like our mirror image or our opposite, and in some cases, it's also our shadow. It symbolizes our partnerships, marriage, and the qualities that we seek out in others, both consciously and unconsciously. And we often will project aspects of ourselves that we're less conscious of through the lens of our descendant, through our opposite sign to our ascendant. Moving to the bottom of the chart, I actually should have gone there first, but moving to the bottom of the chart, this is the IC, or the Imum Coli. Imum Coli is the Latin phrase for bottom of the sky. So it's the bottom of the heavens, the bottom of the birth chart. The IC is always going to be at the cusp of the 4th house in the birth chart. This angle represents the family of a person, family of origin. It's our roots, it's our ancestors, it's our lineage, it's the home, the foundation, the foundations of our life, particularly our earlier life, and how they shape us. This will show where we may be most comfortable on a personal level, but that doesn't always mean that it's the best for us as we mature here on our journey. Now, again, it's the cusp of the fourth house in most house systems, but it's going to be reversed in the southern hemisphere, okay? Then we shoot directly opposite to the top of the chart, and this is the midheaven, or the MC. The midheaven is the top of the sky, or the middle of the heavens at the time of your birth. The midheaven is going to always be on the cusp of the 10th house if you use the Placidus house system, which is the one that I always use because I do find it to be the most accurate for personal readings, especially with an accurate birth time. But if you do use a different house system, such as the whole house system, it could be at the cusp of the 9th or the 11th house, just so you know. But it's typically at the cusp of the 10th house. This is a very public space of the birth chart, where the opposite, the imum coli, is a private space. The midheaven is a very public space. It's visible. So the MC, or the midheaven, represents your public image. This can indicate how a person is perceived by others in the public sphere and the professional sphere. It's also an indication of a potential career path, the person's approach to their career and or their professional goals. Oftentimes clients will come to me and they'll feel like they're not on their path. And so I'll start to get into the midheaven, and a lot of times they're not really doing anything that's indicative of that midheaven, or they are, but just not in the context that they want to. It's also our social standing, it's our ambitions, there's a whole lot to it. If you have any planets that are quite close to any of those angles, I typically will use an orb of 3 degrees. They take on a much stronger significance because they're angular. And in a much more basic way, that just means active and or visible to that person. Whether it's conscious or unconscious, they feel that energy that much more strongly. So those are the angles of the birth chart, or the backbones of the person, as I like to say. Now let me move to another chart. This is a chart that I pulled up on astroseek.com, which is a free website. This is just a random chart that I pulled up. You'll see in this chart that Leo is the first house. Leo is the ascendant. So this chart will show Leo as the starting point, and then Virgo will be the second house, where in the natural birth chart, we've got Aries as the first house always, Taurus as the second. But regardless, it always goes in order. Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius. So now going back to this chart, let's call this Herman, okay? This is Herman's chart. You'll see here in Herman's chart that the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 12th house, none of those houses have any planets occupying the space. The houses are the departments of life, the areas of life. There are several that are assigned to each house. So for example, the 6th house is naturally ruled by the sign of Virgo. It's all about our health, our physical health, our routines, our habits, our nutrition. It's our everyday service, our work. The 7th house is relationships of all kinds, contracts, negotiations. The 8th house is intimacy, sex, the taboo, the afterlife. And then the 12th house is the final house of the wheel, and it's all about endings, losses, sorrow, spiritual growth and wisdom, spirituality, psychic energy. So Cancer is a water sign, and Cancer would be the 12th house here for Herman. But just because Herman doesn't have any planets in the 12th house does not mean that he does not hold strong psychic energy, because Cancer is a water sign, it's very sensitive. Herman's 8th house has Pisces here, which is another water sign, and the 8th house is a water house. So even though there aren't any planets here, it doesn't mean Herman's not going to experience intimacy or bonding with other people or sharing of resources or assets, because again, those are just some things that the 8th house rules over. Now, the 7th house is empty as well, but Aquarius is here, you see? So if I were saying, okay, it's a full moon in Aquarius, where does Aquarius fall in your chart? You're going to say the 7th house of relationships. Now, just because there aren't any planets here doesn't mean that this person's not going to have any relationships. Think of it that way. I hope that makes sense. Now, this is also another chart, fictitious chart, that I pulled up on astro.com, which is another free resource, a free website. You can create an account there, and you can actually store charts there. So we can see that this chart has Cancer rising, Cancer as the first house, again, without any planets there. But this person is still very much a Cancer rising and will likely appear very Cancerian to the people around them, which would be maternal, nurturing, irrespective of gender, protective. But we can see in this chart that this individual, let's call this Francis, Francis doesn't have any planets in the 10th house or the 9th house, again, or the 7th. But that doesn't mean that this person will not have a career, because we see Aries is in the 10th house, and Aries is a very strong sign. It's the first sign of the Zodiac. So this person could still be a CEO, a take charge person. They could have their own business without planets in the 10th house. Let's go one step further. I'm going to try to break this down as most digestible as possible. When you hear myself and or other astrologers say, check where 23 degrees of Leo falls for you, check where this full moon is going to fall in your birth chart, you want to check the degrees of your planets. Reason being, take a look at this birth chart. Let's say we have a full moon in Virgo that falls at 25 degrees of Virgo, okay? Now we're going to look at this chart. Now again, this is off of astro.com, and I know I don't show it here, but if you do use astro.com, underneath there will be a table that actually tells you next to the symbols, Virgo is this, Cancer is this, and it will do the same with the planets. So it's small, but it's easier to read. So if this looks like hieroglyphics to you, don't worry, just follow along. Also, if you do pull up your birth chart on my website, it is even more legible, it's even more clear to read, okay? So let's say this full moon falls at 26 degrees of Virgo. So we're going to look at this chart. Now this person has Cancer rising. So when we do horoscopes, let's say for the collective, which is why, by the way, I find it frustrating sometimes to do general collective horoscopes, specifically just astrologically, because they're not going to land the same for everyone. So mine are astrological, of course, but then mainly they're channeled. They're more of an intuitive nature. So let's say in my video, I'm saying that if you're a Cancer rising, this full moon will fall in your third house because we see Virgo is here at the third house, right? But here's where it can get sticky. This individual's birth chart, the way that it's configured, and again, this is about mathematics and degrees, they have Chiron here at 15 degrees of Virgo. Now we see that their fourth house actually starts right here, but it is still in the sign of Virgo. So their fourth house right here begins in Virgo. But you'll see here that the cusp of the fourth house is 23 degrees. The IC, which is the cusp of the fourth house, or the Imam Coli, that is at 23 degrees of Virgo. And this full moon is at 26 degrees of Virgo. So that would make the full moon for this individual's chart actually fall in the fourth house, because 26 degrees of Virgo is right here in the fourth house. You follow? So this full moon would be very close to the angle of the fourth house. So that would pull a strong emphasis on family life. That's what the fourth house represents. It's our family life. It's our emotional foundation. It's our physical home that we live in. It's family of choice and of origin. It's our ancestry. It's our lineage. It's our mother, parents, family. And you can always obtain a quick and free guide through the 12 houses and what they represent right on my website under courses, but I will also link that in the description box below so you can follow along with what the houses represent. Therefore, this individual, the full moon would actually be illuminating their fourth house, the fourth house areas of their life. Now, they might even experience it with a little bit of the third house because Virgo does start their third house, but that's also dependent on their own personal situation. Houses 3 and 4 also connect because the third house can bring in our siblings, our cousins, our community, early education, things of that nature, where the fourth house is also family. So you might find, depending on your unique situation, that connects. This is why general astrology is basically BS. You need to look at the individual charts to see what's really going on. And that's why I always say it's going to be different for everybody. But for all intents and purposes, if you were just following Cancer rising, you would just assume it's in your third house. That's why I always promote for people to really look at their birth chart, look at the degrees, and see what and if is being impacted specifically by the full moon. Now, this is an example from my software, AstroGold. Let's say the full moon is in Leo. Frank has Leo rising. The full moon falls at 8 degrees of Leo. This full moon would fall exactly on Frank's Venus in his 12th house, and it's applying to his north node and his ascendant at 14 of Leo. Now, this would likely feel significant for Frank. It is in the 12th house, which could make it more of an internal experience, but it's his Venus, so this could be something that has to do with his relationships, something to do with declarations of love and what's in his heart because it's Leo, something being illuminated about his own love nature that leads him to a future love, for example. The North Node, it's our destiny, very close to his ascendant. Perhaps he meets somebody new. Perhaps the world begins to see him in a different way because he comes out of the darkness of the 12th house and into the light. It's Leo. Leo shines, Leo's bright. Remember, 12th house energy kind of struggles to be seen at times. So that full moon could be very illuminating and enlightening for Frank. Now, taking it one step further, the ascendant is the angle. It's an angle of the chart, and it's the start of the first house. So it's very personal. So whenever we have a full moon hitting that or a new moon hitting that, we typically will feel or experience that energy in some capacity. But it's not just his Venus and his North Node, because if we go opposite, if we shoot across the chart, so the South Node will always be exactly opposite the North Node. So the South Node is at 9 degrees of Aquarius. So this full moon would also be opposite Frank's South Node and his Saturn, which is on the angle of the 7th house of relationships. So there's definitely going to be something here that's being illuminated to Frank and for Frank about either himself in relationship, a very important relationship in his life. And so that could be what this full moon is illuminating for Frank. You see how I did that? That's why it's important to look at your own birth chart. I hope that that was helpful. I'm trying to pack like a whole astrology lesson in a very short video, but I really want everyone to be able to do this for themselves, because it really just helps to guide us on our journey that much more deeply, the journey into self and the evolution of the soul. Now, of course, this is very layered, and this is not meant to be a class. This was meant to be just a real quick guide or explanation to show you how we do all have every single sign occupying a space in our birth chart, even without any planets there. And then you have to take into account that when a transiting planet goes through a house that's naturally empty, it's going to kick off energy in those areas of life. All right, so I hope that that was helpful. I hope that that gave you a little bit more insights into why or how we all have every single sign in the birth chart. And in that 3-part tutorial, I go much more deeply into it. But if this is just something that you want to know basic, here you go. I hope that this was helpful. Again, be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you appreciate and would like more of this content. One more thing before you go. If you're interested in gemstones, take a listen to my new collaboration with Otter Spirit. Hello, everyone. If you are a lover of gemstone jewelry, much like myself, you have to check out Otter Spirit. This is a small family-owned and operated company based out of Monterey Bay, California, which is home to the wild sea otter, hence the name. The sea otter was close to extinction, but due to conservation efforts, they are slowly recovering. And another wonderful thing about Otter Spirit, besides the beautiful jewelry, is for every bracelet that you purchase, $1 will go towards the protection of the sea otter. I am wearing the Taurus Zodiac 3-pack. I have zebra jasper, rainbow tourmaline, and one of my personal favorites, African turquoise. You can shop by zodiac sign, you can shop by intention, you can shop by gemstone. They've got earrings, they've got bracelets, they've got necklaces, and they are authentic. In fact, over 80% of their gemstones are rated AAA, which means superior. And they make great gifts, they're beautifully packaged. Be sure to check them out. You can use my customized URL link below and or my discount code, LisaSalvatore20. Happy shopping!